then finally, post-session. There are three things I want to talk about: success, failure, and viewer's block. And again, I want to thank Lynn for all of this because he inspired me to put this information together. As Lynn says, we externalize success and we internalize failure. Well, what does that really mean? What it means is, when we do a really good session, we tend to say, wow, this remote viewing stuff really works. We've externalized our success onto the process, onto the technique. You know, very rarely do people go, I'm a brilliant remote viewer. Very rarely. You know, they always attribute it to the process. But when we screw up, we internalize the failure. We don't say, oh, this remote viewing process is rubbish. We say, I screwed up. I made a mess of the session. I lost the target. So, it's just a perception. Okay? It's a perception, it's a point of view, it's a belief that it's a trap that we've allowed ourselves to fall into. So again, the techniques are great for working with that. The other thing that happens here, if you watch the red dot, this is a graph of how we learn. And this applies as much to somebody learning to play golf as it does to somebody learning to remote view. We know if this is performance up here over time, at the very beginning we have the beginner's luck syndrome. People tend to perform really, really well in their first couple of sessions. I remember both Lynn and Paul Smith writing in their books about how very often they would get, when congressmen would come over to the unit looking to see where the money was being spent, they'd get them to do a session, knowing that the beginner's luck would generally kick in on the first couple of sessions. And they'd have a real, genuine experience of a good session. And it worked. You know, they got their funding every year. So what will happen is the first couple of sessions will be really good, and then suddenly they'll start to drop off, and then you start to wonder what's going on, what's happening here. And then it feels like you couldn't remote view your way out of a wet paper bag. You couldn't remote view your way out of a barn if you're standing inside it. And for many people, they simply follow the blue arrow, and they fall out of the whole process. They just put the manual on the shelf, and that's it. It becomes another workshop they did one weekend. But if you're willing to stick with it and ride out the trough, what's happening here is that here, the conscious is suddenly kicked in and going, hey, hang on a second, I'm running the show here, not this subconscious thing. And the subconscious is going, well, hold, you've let the genie out of the box here. You know, I'm the powerhouse in this relationship. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. And your performance just plummets. And what's going on here is that they're renegotiating the relationship. And at some point, if you stick with it, it'll suddenly turn back up again. And suddenly you start doing good sessions and start getting better and better and better. It's because the relationship has been re-established, has been renegotiated, re-agreed. And your performance will improve even more so than when you started as a beginner. But then it'll plateau because some other issue will come up. And there's a bit of a dispute going on, a bit of a need for a new renegotiation. And bang, down goes your performance. But then it'll plateau again. And then once there's a bit of agreement, it'll come back up again. And you'll find yourself improving to an even higher standard. Now that's a very hard process to go through. And especially when these troughs are taking a lot of time to work through. You know, it can be very disillusioning, very energetically draining, because you're putting all this effort in and you don't seem to be getting any reward or benefits from it. So, renegotiate the agreement. When you find this happening, even when you find it starting to dip, renegotiate the agreement. Get the three of you around the table, your subconscious, your conscious mind. Get clear on roles and responsibilities. Find out what is the hidden emotional disruptor that's in the middle of this relationship and deal with it. Deal with it using one of the energy psychology techniques. As I say here, assign roles and responsibilities. Your subconscious is to do the internal work. Your conscious mind has to communicate effectively. that's what they do best. That's what they're strongest at. And what that will do is it will shorten the periods of time that you spend in the trough. It may even shorten the times that you spend going down into the decline. You may stop it earlier and bring it back up quicker. So before we come to the end, I want to give you an opportunity to put this into practice. And what I want you to do is look at the beliefs. If you haven't got something already that you want to work on, I'm going to take you through the TAT technique, but I'm going to take you through the full technique. When we did the agreement, I just simply had you holding the pose like this and just breathing and just putting your attention on the conversation that was taking place, the internal dialogue. But there's a way of using it specifically with beliefs that I want to show you now. So find one of those beliefs that you resonate with, the one that causes you to get a bit of a ugh in your stomach when you look at it. Fill in the missing words. You don't have to tell anybody about it. But we're just going to notice that that is your belief at this time. Okay, I'll just give everybody a minute just to have a quick review of that, and then I'm going to move on. Okay, so here's what we do. With the TAT technique, choose a word or a name for your anxiety or belief. So you can just simply call it this belief, or you call it this fear, or this fear of money, or whatever it is for you. You know, if you find it easier to make a picture of the belief in your head, do that too. That's another great way of working with this technique. You don't have to use words, you can use pictures, because the pictures will transform as you go through the process. Remember, we did it before. On the scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is completely gone, 10 is the worst it could possibly be. Where is it for you now? On the scale of 0 to 10, when you think about the belief now, how does it feel? What's the first number that comes to mind? Write it down and just make a note of it, because I want you to have something to compare with. Okay. So remember the process of the pose. Take your middle finger, right there, and place it about 3 centimeters or an inch above the joint in the eyebrows on your third eye, and allow your ring finger, your fourth finger, and your thumb to fall in underneath. Okay? And they're just going to touch the top of your tear ducts, just in here. Very, very gently. Very gently. I'll tell you a quick story. The first workshop I ever gave on using the TAT technique, I told everybody in the room, you know, very gently, just touch it very lightly. And the guy came in on the second day of the workshop and he said, Paul, he said, I have to tell you this, my wife thinks I've joined a cult. And I said, why? He said, because I went home last night and I had this big red dot in the middle of my forehead because I was holding so strongly, so tightly. And I said, I told you not to hold it so tightly. He said, I know. He said, but I just couldn't help it. It felt like such a powerful technique. But I said, you've got to be careful because there are blood vessels in here around the eyes and they're very sensitive organs. You just need to touch very gently. It's not a power thing. It's about intention. It's the intention of holding the acupressure points is what matters. So take the other hand and you're going to place your thumb in the crease at the back of your skull here. And just cradle across the back of your head. You'll feel 2 kind of lumps or nodes at the base of the skull there. You're just cradling those very gently. It doesn't matter. If your hands get tired, you can swap them over at any stage. Just like that. Okay. And I'm going to take you through about 4 steps. And I'm going to make a statement. Now, I'm not asking you to believe the statement. I'm simply asking you to put your attention on the statement that I make. Hold it like a thought. Don't have any attachment to it. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to set up your belief and the opposite of your belief to collapse them. And then we're going to clear out some of the legacy of it within your system. And we'll show you how that happens. Now, if anybody's worried about taking notes or recording, I have a final slide here that says, here's my email address. Email me. I'll send you a copy of the presentation. So you'll have all of the notes here to work with. So don't worry about keeping a record. So when you're ready, I'm going to begin by asking you to take the TAT, make the TAT pose like this, as I've shown you. And I'm going to set an intention, a healing intention, that all of the work that we're doing now is going to be for the highest good of all of us, for all of us that are affected by these beliefs and thoughts and memories, fears, for those who have been affected by us, being affected by all of these thoughts, memories, and fears, through all time and through all space. And that the healing that will take place is for the highest good of all. So, the first step, hold the pose and put your attention on the belief or the thought that you have. Just put your attention on the belief. Any thoughts or images that come up, just let them pass by. Bring your attention back onto the belief and breathe. Take a deep breath. And just hold that pose for about 30 seconds. Just bring your attention onto the belief that you have. And breathe. And when you're ready, just bring down your hands. Okay, so I'm going to break the pose. If you've got water beside you, take some. It's very important to drink water, particularly when you do energy psychology work, because you're going to be releasing, the energetic release is going to be corresponded by physical releases within the body. So you're going to find toxins being cleared out of cells and out of organs, and the body doing a bit of a detox. So it's very important to keep your body fully hydrated. The second step, before we do the pose, I just want to explain. The second step is we're going to put your attention on whatever is the opposite of the belief for you. Now, what does that mean? Okay, I'll give you an example. The first time I ever did this technique, the first time I showed this technique to an aunt of mine, she said, "Oh, you were in Switzerland learning this technique. Oh, that's really interesting. And I've got a Swiss neighbor and they have a fabulous house, and maybe I'm just a stupid woman, but blah, 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 blah." And all I heard her say was, in the middle of that sentence, she inserted the phrase, "I'm a stupid woman." And she said, blah, 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 but I've no idea what I could use that technique for. And I said, "Well, do you realize what you said?" And I said, "Well, what did I say?" I said, "Well, in the middle of what you were saying, you said, maybe I'm just a stupid woman, but..." And she had no idea that she said it. Absolutely no idea. I said, "Well, look, there's a belief. It's running like a virus on your desktop. It's there, you can't see it. But every now and then it's going to crash the system. So why don't we take out that belief?" And she went, "Great." So I said, "So, this belief, I'm a stupid woman, what for you would be the opposite of that?" And she thought for a minute and she said, "I'm a fabulous woman." And I said, "Perfect. Whatever it is for you, that's your belief." So, if that's helpful, I hope in some way that you can find an opposite. If you can't, here's a really simple thing to do. If you have a belief that I can't do this for money, I can't remove you for money, for example, the opposite would be, it's not true that I can't remove you for money. Okay, that's the opposite of the belief. So, whatever it is the opposite for you, just bring that thought to mind. Okay, so it could simply be, it's not true that, da 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 da. And when you're ready, bring your hand up in the TAT pose. So take your middle finger, place it an inch above your eyebrows and your third eye. Let your ring finger and thumb slip in underneath, touching the tear ducts, and bring your thumb into the crease at the back of the skull and just cradle the back of your skull. Close your eyes, breathe, and put your attention on whatever is the opposite of the belief for you. And hold that pose for about 30 seconds. And breathe. Any thoughts or memories that come to mind, or colors or images, just let them pass by. You don't need to chase them. Just bring your attention back onto the thought that whatever is the opposite of the belief for you. Take a deep breath, and when you're ready, just bring down your hands. Okay. Now, many of the beliefs that we have aren't ours. You weren't born with a pre-programmed set of beliefs. There's actually only one belief that people are born with, as has been discovered by neuroscientists, and it's the fear of snakes. It's a survival instinct. For some reason, we're programmed to be afraid of snakes, and I don't know why that is. But all other beliefs are not yours. You picked them up along the way. They were either given to you by parents or carers, childminders, uncles, aunts, grandparents, friends, by your society, by your culture, by your history. And all of those beliefs somewhere have an origin, somewhere where they started from. The thing is, we don't need to know where they all came from. All we need to know is that they have an origin, because what we can do is we can go back to the origins and say, all of the origins of this belief are healing now. And our intention is to clear the roots of this belief. I don't need to find them. I just need to trust that the process will take care of itself, and it will. So what I invite you to do again is bring your hands up into the TAT pose and put your attention on the thought, all of the origins of this belief are healing now. All of the origins of this belief, wherever they are, time, space, wherever, all of the origins of this belief are healing now. And breathe. Take a deep breath. Again, any thoughts and memories that come up, just let them pass by. Bring your attention back onto the thought. All of the origins of this belief are healing now. And just hold that for about 30 seconds. And when you're ready, just bring down your hands. Just break the pose. As we know, all beliefs, all perceptions are stored in some way in the biofield. They affect the energetic field, but they also affect the physical body. They affect organs, they affect cells. You know, we have cellular memory. They affect neurons. So, beliefs have a physical effect upon us as well, both in our physical body and in our biofield. So the final clearing out is to clear out all of the places in your mind, in your body, in your life, where this belief has been a problem. So the last step is simply bring yourself into the pose, into the TAT pose, and put your attention on this thought. All of the places in me affected by this belief are healing now. All of the places in me affected by this belief are healing now. And breathe. Take a deep breath. Any thoughts or memories that come, just let them pass by. Bring your attention back onto the thought. All of the places in me affected by this belief are healing now. And just hold that for about 30 seconds. And breathe. And when you're ready, just break the pose and just bring down your hands. Take a deep breath, give yourself a shake, If you have water, drink some water. You may find yourself feeling quite thirsty after doing this, because again, as toxins are clearing out, the body wants water to keep you hydrated and to clean out your system. So having gone through that, again, what I invite you to do is go back to the scale. Remember we said on a scale of 0 to 10, what number is the original belief now? Has it changed in any way? Has it transformed itself? Have you had some realization by going through that process? And just notice where it is for you and notice the change. And again, if you want to put something in the chat box, please do so, or else keep your observations for the end, and we'll hopefully have time for some Q&A. Okay, so we're just going to move on to the last part.